Whether you're on a spiritual path or not, or if you're just living life and just want to work with your emotions a bit, at some point, you're going to start to really hit into a sense of fear about the unknown. This is just kind of inevitable, I think, just being a human. So I think it's important to just name this and just talk about it. Because, growing up, did anyone ever talk about this with you? Did anyone ever talk about the unknown? Did anyone ever even normalize that it's okay to have some fear about this? If you're like me, you probably never got that talk. It's like there's this elephant in the room and we never talk about it. We all just pretend like, oh, it's possible to know things. And actually your whole life could be built around knowing things, like mine was for many years. Getting really into learning and concepts, philosophy, psychology, whatever, right? You start to really grasp at ideas, facts, information, and it does provide something. And you might actually even get really rewarded. Our whole educational system's really built around this, isn't it? Around knowing things. All that studying, all that memorization. Although, how good is it really? Because you end up forgetting it later anyway, But at least in that moment when you're tested, it seems like you know things. And then you get rewarded for it. And you get good grades. And you might get rewarded then at home for having good grades. But what happens when you don't know something? How is that treated? Growing up, maybe you get punished for not knowing things, for misunderstanding things, for not conceptualizing fast enough or quick or just efficiently enough, or maybe just not getting it. There's just this one thing I just can't get, Could even be this whole emotional work or spirituality or whatever, non-duality. Could be a lot of doubt there about not knowing it, not understanding it, even though this is the one thing that you're really never going to understand. But if you feel into this, though, not knowing in our culture, in our society, is kind of not a good thing. It's kind of frowned upon. It's certainly not celebrated to admit that you don't know. So growing up, maybe you were punished, laughed at, humiliated. But then as you grow older, right, college or just working, how is it treated then? It might even be dangerous to not know. You might really have to hide that you don't know something, or that you don't know anything. It might actually be that your livelihood depends on you really pretending that you know things. Especially if you work if your career, if you're a professor of some sort, teacher, you work with people, if you're a mental health therapist. But I think most jobs really, you really, your status, I guess you could say, can really depend on how much you know. Or rather, how much can you pretend to know? But there's going to come a certain point where you get into a situation where you just don't know something and you just can't figure it out. Or maybe you start to really question things. Maybe you have a diagnosis, an illness, maybe a terminal illness, and you start to really think about the unknown, feel into the unknown. How does that feel? Not so good. Because this is something that we avoid. That's the thing. Like this is something that we actively avoid our whole lives, and not that we choose to. Like I was saying, there's so much conditioning where it gets reinforced, where we hide the fact that we don't know. We're really afraid of this, of not knowing. So as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of conditioning around this. Like within the social matrix, growing up, you get punished, right? You get laughed at, You get rejected maybe if you don't know. So we definitely build up a lot of defenses around this, pretending like we know things, or really just getting frustrated if we don't know something, like really hiding it, pushing that away. So there's definitely like a lot of fear of rejection, fear of being embarrassed, connected with not knowing, but it goes even deeper than that, really. I mean, the fear of the unknown, I would say, is probably the deepest fear that we have. And it really connects with other fears like feeling the fear of feeling unsafe, survival, helplessness. And so we kind of need to be open to, like, if we start to work with the unknown, we need to be open to, first of all, what emotion am I feeling here? Obviously fear, right? But just noticing, like, yeah, this is fear. Naming it. And specifically, if helplessness feels right, then this is a really important emotion to acknowledge, because as I've said in other videos, helplessness is probably the most repressed emotion. Like, we all learn at such a young age to repress helplessness because strength is what's valued, autonomy is what's valued. And feeling helpless is like a total loss. It's like a total loss of autonomy, agency. And it can be quite embarrassing even to even admit that you feel helpless. So if you start to feel into fear of the unknown, I would suggest to just see if the sense of helplessness connects. Is this what helplessness feels like? Because if there is total unknown, if you don't know anything, that means that you can't control anything, right? Because knowing is what gives us control. It's what gives us certainty. So if you don't know what's going on, if you don't know what to do, how to resolve a certain situation, that loss of control will make you feel helpless. This emotion of helplessness, fear. And the unknown is really just that. It's really just, I'm talking emotionally, right? The unknown, when we approach the unknown, what we're really talking about is helplessness. We're really just talking about fear. Because the unknown is not something that you can experience, really. Like, it's not something that you can even touch into conceptually. All you can do is just notice how the body reacts and how the mind reacts, which is fear and then a lot of thoughts, a lot of resistance, a lot of avoidance. And it's really all avoidance, really. But in actuality, the unknown is just this. It's just what's here all the time. It's just reality. Because in reality, you really don't know anything. I mean, you think you do. The mind thinks it knows things. The mind thinks it's in control. But it's all quite illusory, really. And at some point, that belief is going to be tested. At some point, you're going to really face the loss of control. And I think just being prepared for that by practicing, by noticing, oh, this is fear. There's a fear of the unknown, a fear of feeling this way, the loss of control, not knowing, even helplessness. There's going to be a fear of feeling helpless. And being able to acknowledge these feelings, you don't have to actually do anything with them. That's the thing. You don't have to like, oh, and that's a problem. How do I fix it? No, just kind of being able to name the feelings. This is a sense of not knowing, and there's fear. Now you can sit with it. Now you can acknowledge it. It's the whole point of this, right? We're not really managing anything. We're just kind of inquiring, like, okay, what is this? What's happening right now? Oh, fear of the unknown. Just feel like I'm losing control and I have no clue what's happening and I feel helpless. Okay. Can I allow this? Can I not judge it? Sometimes it's already too late and there's already judging going on. And by that point, you can't just stop the judging. You can just then shift over to the judging and just notice, oh, there's judging now. There's a judgment about the fact that I don't know what to do. There's shame about it, right? There's judgment. There's a sense of something's wrong with me because I don't know. And honestly, a lot of the time, you're probably going to be just working with shame because that's what covers over the fear. Because the fear itself might be hard to access at first. You're going to just be feeling all the shame, which is all the conditioning that we've learned to judge ourselves, to beat ourselves up, that there's something wrong with not knowing. I have to protect that. I have to do something about it. And what better way to do something about it than to beat yourself up? Or at least this is the pattern. Because as children, what can you do? If there's all this pressure to learn and know things, and if there's negative reinforcement, if there's punishment with, if there's punishment with not knowing, like being embarrassed, being punished, rejected, then you're going to want to protect yourself. And that's what shame is. It's just, how can I protect myself from this? How can I control this and basically prevent it from happening in the future? What better way than shame, really? So a lot of it's going to be shame, judgment. And that's really good to notice. What does it mean about me if I don't know? Could be all sorts of things, right? Just noticing that, just noticing those beliefs, like, oh, it means I'm not good enough. It means I'm a failure. It means I'm stupid. It could even mean I'm worthless. Like there's something so fundamentally broken about me. Maybe I'm even completely unlovable. Like no one's gonna love me or like me or accept me because of this. And that could be pretty uncomfortable to feel into. I'm not gonna lie, but it's worth it. Because bringing these beliefs up is literally how we integrate. This is how we integrate. What does that mean about me? Oh, it means I'm unlovable if I don't know things. Oh, it means I'm unlovable if I don't know things. And that's why I have to do something about it. Okay, that's what this is. See, now you're stepping into that belief, that feeling. You're stepping into it consciously, though, with eyes wide open, right? You're not hiding it. You're not trying to manage it, try to replace it with a positive belief, like, what, you know what? I actually am lovable if it doesn't matter if I know things. That doesn't work, right? Because that's just trying to replace with a positive belief, which doesn't work. We need to go right into the belief. That's the thing. We need to go right into it, see it, name it, allow it. Oh, that's what it is. That's what it means. And when you're accepting the belief, you're just sitting with it. You're feeling it. You're sitting with it. And it starts to make sense. It doesn't mean that it starts to feel true. I just mean that it makes sense in terms of, oh, well, no wonder this has been so difficult. No wonder my whole life this has been a struggle for me, because my sense of worth, my sense of lovability, acceptability depends on knowing things. So in order for me to actually be accepted and loved by people, I have to know things. I have to not be wrong. Basically, I have to, right? So no wonder it's been such a problem, right? So this is how acceptance is. It's just like the sense of like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And that's where you pause. Like you don't have to go any further. You don't have to say, and that's wrong now, and I can let go of that now. No, because that's adding more fuel to the fire. So it's kind of paradoxical, right? But you don't have to replace beliefs. You don't have to convince yourself of the opposite. Because once we fully step into it without kind of taking that step back, where we usually take that step back and we're kind of looking at it like, oh, there it is. There's that belief about me that I want to change or I want to do something with it. Instead, you step into it, feel it fully, look at it fully, be conscious, literally, just be conscious as you do this. And something happens, actually, when we do this. Literally, the beliefs start to dissolve, integrate, and it stops feeling true. And that's it. But it takes a lot of courage to do this, because you're literally going against, it could feel like every fiber of your being. Although if it feels like that, there's resistance. So you should always work with that first. Like, I don't want to do this right now. This is too much. Listen to that resistance. Don't push through it. But still, there could very well be a lot of hesitance. There could be a lot of just uncertainty with this. So don't push it. This is like one of the deepest fears that we have. And you don't want to force yourself to step into what a part of you is adamantly against. You want to always notice that. Like, it's like, I want to go into this fear, but actually I don't. I really don't. Like, I'm really not ready for that. That's okay. At some point, though, you're going to feel ready. I can't tell you when that's going to be. Oftentimes, life just kind of makes it happen. The conditions just kind of line up. It's not going to be comfortable, but it's also not going to be that bad either. Just discomfort, sensations that are unknown, literally. The mind just has no clue what's happening. And yet, if you stay right there, because you can, you do have the capacity, a strange kind of peace starts to wash over you. But it's not the kind of peace that we get from avoiding, from pushing away, from imagining. It's more of a, I don't even know how to say it, neutral space, I guess. And that reaction goes away. Because really what causes the suffering is the reaction. It's like if there's like imagine like a hot pool of water, like a jacuzzi or something, right? And if you've been conditioned your whole life that this is going to be really, really, really uncomfortable, you should really avoid, don't even look at it. Don't even look at that jacuzzi. Why are you looking at it? Don't even look at it, right? So you start to actually dip your feet in. There's going to be all this reaction. There's going to be all this, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And it's going to be on a visceral level. It's not even going to be necessarily mental, although it is mental, but you're not going to be aware that it's mental. But then once you just repeatedly, gently dip your feet in, come back, and you just see, okay, there's no actual threat. Everything's okay. And this actually strangely feels good. So now you're building up some trust, or rather you're unlearning the mistrust. And before you know it, Hey, this feels kind of nice. This feels kind of peaceful. So fear of the unknown, which is also connected to fear of helplessness, basically fear of fear, right? And just really stepping in, right? Just really stepping in, not forcing it. You're kind of leaning in to what's unknown. And it's always available because we live in the unknown. Even just spending a few moments, just kind of, okay. You could even ask a question, inquiry question. What is unknowable right now? What is unknowable right now? And you're not looking for any answer in thought. You're just trusting experience. And the body could react. And so that those sensations are allowed. And when you're resting in the unknown, as the unknown, is there even a need to know? The mind could say yes, but that's just a thought. Is there really a need to know? All that we're avoiding is discomfort, pain in the body that the mind gets identified with and says, this is bad, this is wrong, I'm afraid of this, I need to be afraid of this, I need to get away from this, I need to control this. So just keep exploring all those beliefs. And as the contractions in the body resolve and integrate, you start to feel much lighter. And then just resting here in the unknown is such a natural thing. It's always the case. If it doesn't feel natural, though, there's a lot of resistance. Turn towards that. Allow that. It could be a lot. There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of, I don't want this, I hate this. Just a lot of visceral no. And we're not about pushing that away. We're not about trying to convince that, manage that. Oh, there's a lot of resistance right here. That can be here. That's okay. Not sure what else to say about this. It's really hard to talk about this because literally thoughts cannot touch the unknown. And the unknown, I mean, literally the unknown, right? It's what's not knowable, which means thoughts can't touch it. And we're so conditioned to fear this. We're so afraid. We're conditioned to really avoid that which thoughts cannot touch. But you can go there. But it does mean leaving the comfort and familiarity of thoughts. But that's all it is. It's leaving the comfort and familiarity. It's very comforting to know, to have a mental map, to have an understanding, something to come back to, some ledge to hold on to. It also takes a lot of effort. actually, because you have to keep switching, finding a new ledge, because this one doesn't work anymore. This one doesn't satisfy. This one's not accurate. I need to find, it's like always seeking that right thought, that right view. It'll never come because there is no right thought or right view. Doesn't mean that it's not worth knowing, like it's like practically, right? Like if you need to learn how to garden, I mean, thoughts are, the mind is a pretty useful tool, but that's all it is. It's a tool. It's like a hammer. You're not going to use a hammer for everything, right? So I think it's really good to view the mind thoughts, conceptual thinking as just that, a tool. It's a helpful tool, but it's not the right tool for every job. And when it comes to resting, just being present, exploring what it is to be me, what am I, identity, this is where we have to go beyond thought. If you want freedom, if you value freedom and peace, then this is where we have to go. This is the direction we have to go. We have to move beyond the comfort of thoughts. We have to move into the unknown, which is not anywhere. It's here. It's always here. So it's really just, can I be willing to face what's maybe scary? And since the unknown is literally just what's here, it's actually more of, can I just be willing to feel fear? Because that's all that it is. It's this constant hesitation and avoidance, which is all built on fear. All right. Like I'm talking too much at this point. So hopefully this is helpful.